I'd like to now turn to Rabbi Kevin De-Carli, who is the Interfaith Advisor in Switzerland, to deliver his perspective. Rabbi, please have the floor.
Thank you, Jimmy. I must excuse myself. I hope you can understand me despite my current handicap. I am in an isolation tent as this morning I started showing first signs of a corona infection myself. I was found violently coughing up blood and not being able to breathe anymore, and now being treated. Although the recent outbreak of COVID-19 seems unlike anything we have seen before, plagues and epidemics as such are nothing new. In fact, it's been a lot worse in the past. And to begin, I'd like us to have a small look at epidemics throughout history to put this situation into somewhat of a perspective and give some Jewish insights on how leaders could respond. Because as humans, it is our very nature to be forgetful, to alter memories, such as concerning plagues, such as concerning the Spanish flu. Looking back to our oldest sources in the book of Numbers, after Korach's rebellion, a plague strikes the Jewish people and thousands begin to die. What Moses does is he tells Aaron to quickly take a fire pan with incense, go to the midst of the congregation and atone for their sins. Aaron stands between the living and the dead, it says, and the Ketoret, the plague, is halted. Well, how did Moses know what the incense would do, and how did he know it would avert the plague? The Talmud relates it that when Moses went up to heaven, he received the Torah, and each angel bestowed upon him a blessing. And the blessing that Satan bestowed upon him was to know which herb had healing powers and which one would not. This goes for me in a category in things that might have worked in the past, but are unlikely to work in the current situation. In the past, medicine, magic, and superstition were hardly distinguishable. Today, we are in the fortunate situation that we can draw some very clear lines between them. Already, the Talmudic sages tried to give reasonable advice to people, saying that basically, if you are around a sick person, be careful from the fluids that come from them. If he is coughing, try not to stand in the direction of which the wind is coming, and not to enter the house of a sick person unprotected. This goes so far that in the summer of 1850 in Vilnius, on Yom Kippur, the holiest fast day in the Jewish calendar, Rabbi Israel Lipkin was concerned that fasting would weaken the people and make them more vulnerable to disease. And instead of reminding them of the obligation to God to not forget him to do their service, he hung placards throughout the city of Vilna, urging all who felt weak to eat on the fast day. And according to some accounts, he publicly made a kiddush and started eating some cakes to encourage all those in need to follow suit. What he did there was breaking with one of the most holy laws in Judaism to save people's lives. Because to them, they were first and foremost people, and he was responsible for them. And as a final note, during times like these, people can often become marginalized and overlooked. So let us do our part to ensure that doesn't happen in our communities and in our neighborhoods. As Rebbe Tzimchania states, she was the mother of the future Lubavitcher Rabbi. Their main house is currently in New York. When his son was 20 years old, a typhus epidemic broke out, and he left his studies to assist those who were ailing, bringing them aid, and himself and organized others to do so. He paid a very steep price. He contracted the illness and with extremely high fever, and even in his fevers, he still uttered words of Hasidut, may God bring strength and healing to all. I am starting, is this the bell that I'm hearing? No? Oh. In times of crisis, humanity comes first. As an example, I am currently serving the Swiss Army. I left my studies when I was called by my country. In the army, we do not distinguish between religion, confession, or spiritual background. Rather, it supports each and every citizen equally, berates, accompanies, and supports them according to their human needs. One for all and all for one is our national motto. United we stand and united we serve. It is our duty to do so. We are ready to support the civil healthcare institutions, and our Hospital Battalion 5, with its companies, cares for, helps and protects the citizens of our country wherever it can. The corona crisis, it is a mirror to a society. It shows us how fundamentally human in nature our reactions and responses are, and that's at the core of all religions and institutions. There is no greater mystery, no incomprehensible power. Just give me a second, please. I will try to make the noise stop. Do you still hear me?
Yes, please continue, Rabbi.
Thank you. It is at the core of our fundamental human nature and our reactions and responses, on the core of all religions. There is no greater mystery. There is no incomprehensible power. It's only the fundamental human nature and fear. Because didn't anybody ever tell you, says the Talmud, fear is a superpower. Fear can make you faster, cleverer, stronger, and it is so very human to be afraid. But it is our reaction to fear that makes a difference. Unfortunately, in times of fear, people tend to seek the aid of an authority. Maybe it works well. Is for medical questions you consult a healthcare professional? Good. But sometimes, and that is the dark side of many religions, spiritual authorities give simpler answers than other experts by providing supernatural causes and solutions. And far too often, they end in exceeding far more needs on the people than they had before. For now, they don't only have to take care for their health, but also fear for the eternal punishment of their immortal soul after their physical death. So in times of crisis, don't be religious, just be human. As for myself, I do not consider myself to be a good man, not a bad man either. And I am not an ambassador, no rabbi, and certainly, despite my rank, not an officer. You know what I am? I am an idiot, just passing through, helping out, learning. My roles do not define who I am. I define how the faces I am wearing are filled. I do not need armies or title for that. I never have, because I got them. Always them, the men and women I meet, I live with, I cry and I laugh with, by not being religious, but by being human. What's all the wealth and faith in the world good for if we act as petty and selfish as before? Because love, it is not an emotion. Love is a promise to put one's other's needs before ours. And why should you do that all? If religious is out of the way, placed in second row, do it because it is the right thing to do, because it is decent, and above all, because it is kind. It is just that, just kindness at the base that we need. Take us soldiers. If we run away, good people will die. If we stand and fight and fulfill our duty, some of them might live. Maybe not many, maybe not for long, and maybe there is no point in any of that. It is not up to us to know, but it is the best we can do in our current situation. And so I am going to do it. And I will stand here doing it until it kills me. And apparently I started coughing blood this morning and I have quite a high fever. So there is a certain chance in that and a certain irony. And this is also something the corona crisis reminded people of, especially here in the Western countries. Sometimes, someday you are going to die. And how will that be? Have you thought about that? What would you die for? Who am I is where I stand is where I fall, and I told you stand with me. These people that we meet in the hospitals, they are terrified. Maybe we can help them a little. Why not just at the end, just be a little bit kind? In the face of fear, the very human nature, never be cruel, never be cowardly. Remember that hatred is always foolish. Acting out of kindness and love is always wise. And remember that pain, the injustice, the terrible things that happened in the past and that we are so afraid of, that we try to forget, hold on to them till they burn you and say, no one else will have to live like this. No one else will have to feel this pain, not on my watch. So remember not to be religious or zealous or nationalist. Just be human. So what do we learn from Corona in the end? That the value of a nation, of progress, is not measured by industries. It is measured by the value we place on a life, an unimportant life at that, a life without value. That is what defines a nation. That is what defines us as a species. And so I appeal to you, to all of you, listening to me today in the name of our personal convictions or the religions which we owe allegiance to, because we all have in common a respect for integrity of humankind, because we have in common the rejection of hatred and violence, because we have in common the hope for a better and more just world. I appeal to you, representatives of religious communities, of civil society. I appeal to you, the leaders of this world, whatever your field of influence may be, to strictly adhere to the following principles that we learned from Corona. Refuse to invoke religious or spiritual power to justify violence. Refuse to invoke religious or spiritual sources to justify discrimination and exclusion. And refuse to exploit or dominate others by means of strength, intellectual capacity, or spiritual persuasion, wealth, or social status, grounded in the Swiss tradition of welcome, refuge, and compassion. My appeal is to all conditions.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you for, we deeply respect you for joining us despite your sickness. I think everyone joins me in prayers, in giving prayers for your healing and full recovery. Deeply respect, and I think we've caught your message. You're giving up your life for others, and your commitment is laudable, and we really know that this message is for all of us to give that kind of commitment to others. That's the way we're going to get through together to solve the problem of the pandemic.